Next session, event leadership. It has two sides, the why and the how. The why is strategy, the systems, the structures, the outcomes. The how is the culture, trust, principles, stakeholders, confidence, and attendee experience. Please welcome Evan Babins, Manager of Event Productions, with his session on expectations of event leadership. Evan, take it away.
Thanks so much. And I'm going to share my screens. Hopefully, everybody can see those now. So, hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Evan Babins. I'm coming to you live. I think I'm the only one from Canada, so I'm based in Toronto. It's really great to be here at EPNow, speaking for the first time, meeting new people in the chat, talking with, connections that I already have with lots of friends in the chat all day. This is such a great group of people who make the magic of events happen both in front and behind the scenes. I've spent the last decade or so producing events globally, ranging from internal corporate meetings and experiences to international conferences and multi-day events, both in-house and agency side. One thing has never been clearer than ever before. 2026 is shaping up to be one of the most transformative years for being a leader in our industry. Event leadership is one of the only jobs where everything has to be perfect in, let's face it, an imperfect environment. This session we're going to go through together is going to be practical, honest, and I hope we have a little bit of fun along the way. So if you're ready, I want to hear you in the chat. Let's do it. Let's get ready to do this. Let's hear you in the chat. So expectations of event leaders have grown, often without being clearly defined. Events are higher stakes, more visible, and more complex than they ever have been before. You are being evaluated on how you lead, not just what you and your team delivers on. Success used to mean on time, on budget, and no complaints. Leaders were expected to fix problems quietly and keep the train moving forward. If no one noticed you, you were doing a great job. That was the mantra of leadership. But the new model of leadership in event leaders are now strategic partners. We're not just executors. We are leading people. We're leading our vendor partners and our stakeholders, not just timelines. Our judgment and leadership styles are as visible as the events we're planning. But there are some invisible aspects that happen behind closed doors that no one else sees. And let's unpack those for a moment. A lot of the leadership work that we do happens way before anything ever goes wrong. You're constantly making decisions people never see, what to escalate, what to let go, what to fix quietly. There are also emotional management of your team, staying calm so that those around you follow suit. Great event leadership often looks like nothing happened, and that's how we know we got something right. In my mind, there are 4 main expectations of event leaders in 2026, and let's go through them all together. Number 1, leaders are expected to understand why the event exists and our clients' goals and outcomes. Stakeholders want insights from us, not just delivery. Asking smart questions is now part of the job. It's not pushing back on what's being asked of us. And having a seat at the table, that's our responsibility. It doesn't give us a status icon or an elevated status within our organization. Event leaders don't just manage teams, we manage expectations. This includes translating chaos into clear, confident updates from our stakeholders. Managing up means setting boundaries early on and not just reacting later. Saying no or not yet can actually build trust when it's done well. When leadership trusts you, everything downstream gets easier for you and your team. Events are stressful. Let's not lie about it. Our teams and our partners look to us for stability and direction. Creating calm, safe teams leads to better results than pressure. Clear communication will always beat last-minute heroics every single day. You don't need to have all the answers. Immediately, when someone asks for something, your reaction sets the tone for everyone around you. Calm leadership builds trust faster than being perfect right off the top, since we all know that is simply not sustainable. And finally, adaptability. We all know that something is going to go wrong. Something is going to change from your original plan. It always does, no matter what. We don't need to have all the answers, but we need to be able to change paths quickly with total clarity. Flexibility is no longer a nice to have. It is the core values. It is core to our roles. So what do we do next? We have to shift our mindset to the new event leadership mindset. Moving from control to clarity means people don't need to be micromanaged. They need direction. From perspective to progress is the idea that shift that clear understanding of what needs to be done beats out trying to be perfect alone. Leadership is a collective game. It's not for you to be on an island on your own without a lifeboat. We all need to work as a team within our teams, within our organizations to get the job done right. So now that we know we need to be, the question now becomes, what don't we need to be? We don't need to be perfect or available 24/7. We are allowed to have a life outside of work. We are not meant to carry the weight of the world alone. It's okay to ask for help when we need it. Strong leadership skills includes the ability to set boundaries and being able to delegate effectively. Another massive piece of the puzzle we need to continuously consider is using technology to help us manage our events and our teams. Shared documents keep teams aligned and reduce last-minute questions. Centralized communication prevents information silos and confusion. Dashboards help you spot issues early instead of reacting late. And automation frees you to focus on your people, not your administrative tasks. Using proper technology gives you back mental space, which makes you show up better for your team and how they need you to every single day. So what's next? And where do we go from here? We need to think more broadly and not get stuck in the weeds of the details of our events. Let your team do their job so that you can do yours more effectively. You need to lead your team with clarity, not with control. Focus on the people just as much as the process. Stay human. Your team doesn't need a superhero. They need a real leader who understands their struggles, helps them win, and leads by example. Small wins beat perfection every single time. By moving the needle by 1% every single day, you will see long-term growth and change over time. Great event leadership isn't about controlling everything. It's about guiding your team through the uncertainty that we deal with every single day. When our teams know what we expect from them, they can deliver results. When there is a fear of the unknown, everything falls apart. As leaders, we need to guide our teams, and we need to guide the ship with honesty, with compassion, and with empathy. When we do, our teams can deliver excellence, and we can all celebrate all of our wins together. I want to thank EPNow, Lisa, and the team so much for having me today. I hope this quick session gave you everything you need to do your jobs better. And I want to thank everyone in the chat for making our industry the best one out there. If we're not connected, please make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn and stay in touch. And I think now we have some time for any Q&A if there is any in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it's perfect. I was just going to ask if you could stop sharing.
I got you.
Wonderful. If anyone has any questions for Evan, please feel free to add them in the chat now. But as we're waiting for those questions, Evan, some things that did stand out for me, adaptability as a core value. I think that's so amazing to share because it's not just adaptability in like our work, but also adaptability with our teams. Because in your talk right now, you share about the human element of we don't have to be available 24/7. When you said we're allowed to have a life, that struck a chord.
It's true. I mean, I think a lot of people, especially in leadership, think that, you have to be always on. You have to always be like, 5 a.m., midnight, answering emails, answering Slack messages. Like, no, like that's not a thing. Like, we all need time and space. We need to be able to rest. We need to be able to recover so that we can be there for our team when they need us to be bright and early, whatever that looks like, whether you're on site, whether you're in the office, whether you're traveling. We need to be there for our team. And if that means you need to take time to be there mentally, physically, emotionally, you need to do that.
I agree. I mean, just sharing from a personal standpoint, as 2 weeks ago, I had to step away from an event for personal family matters. And honestly, the best decision I can make. Initially, my head thinks, but the event, do they know the contact information for this vendor? But creating those shared sheets, as you said, having that information, passing it off to my team allowed me to be present with my family and say, hey, this is where I need to be right now. And it made me excited to go back.
100%. You want to make, I mean, family's more important than anything. Hopefully everyone feels the same way, that if that always trumps everything else. When something happens, we have to be there for our family and the people that matter the most to us.
Yeah, and like Amanda says in the chat, a work-life balance is so needed. And I feel like with our roles and events, it definitely ebbs and flows. Sometimes work is a focus because it's a big milestone event. And sometimes, hey, I got to step away for family. So knowing when to
100%.
shift that focus, and it may not be always a 50-50 balance, but balancing of where we're focusing is super helpful.
100%. I agree with that.
Yeah. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to add them on in. If not, I have some other items I'd like to talk. When you shared about having small wins over perfection, I think as an events person, as a perfectionist, that's sometimes a hard item for me to switch between because I know the caliber of work I and the team can create. And I always want to meet that caliber. But sometimes, like to your point, it is okay to just acknowledge the small wins. It's okay to reach the 90% as compared to the 100% because you're managing your workload.
Yeah, I think the small wins add up. Like I said, changing the needle, moving the needle by 1% every day makes big change downstream. Having small wins, if it's, somebody, got recognized for, great piece that they did for a project, right? Somebody, suggested a great new vendor in a brainstorming session. Like everything adds up, everything sort of comes together. And then everything delivers, for your end goal, for your event, and at the end of the day for your stakeholders and your attendees.
Great. And I see Stephanie here has a question, and she's curious to learn about your favorite automations.
Yeah, so I think everyone goes to the standards that ChatGPT is. I use Content Sidekick for creating content, whether that's for social, for event content. There are so many different tools you can use. You can use things like Nano Banana for image generation, which is like the best one out there. There's amazing, video tools. Google has great video tools. Really just taking I use AI personally to take the sort of mundane admin side of event producing out of the way. So whether that's, you're doing breakout session descriptions for your event website, you put in a prompt to ChatGPT saying, something like, I'm doing this event. It's for this audience. It's happening in this city, in this place. I have speakers talking about X, Y, and Z topic. Please write me session descriptions that I can use. That could have been 4 hours, 5 hours of work done in 37 seconds.
Exactly. I do use it myself to revise the session topics and those abstracts.
Yeah.
All right. I see that we also have a question coming in from Rich. Any tips for actions to take so you can stay present while planning for a million things?
I think that's the biggest question that everyone wishes they had the answer to. But I think everyone struggles with that a little bit. I think it's about finding the balance that works for you your lifestyle, your company, your family, your personal, space, whatever that looks like. If that means you're, traveling and you need time in between, maybe you say no to an event that's coming up that you can, say no to because you need that downtime. If you have young kids at home, maybe it's, skipping out on an event and doing something that's focused more on the virtual side of things. I think really it depends on everyone's own personal, your own personal perspective, your own personal use case, and what your life dictates of how much you need to put in versus how much you can take out.
I agree. For myself, I would say that staying present while managing all the different events, I personally make sure that I have a consolidated view of all the information of an event on the shared sheet. And to me, that means I can step away from this event. And when I come back to it, I could just glance quickly and get right back into the zone as compared to having my brain think and work when I'm not at work.
I think it's also really beneficial when you need to take some time away or you need to step away from, from work, from an event. You have that backup in place. You have the team that supports you in place. I think the best teams, the best event teams are there to support each other, no matter, what level you're at or what, where in the org chart you sit. As long as we have the backups, then you can feel comfortable taking a step back, turning your brain off, going on vacation, taking a night off and not answering emails at 8 p.m., and just ensuring you have that backup so nothing gets missed.
Yeah. All right. Next question we have. What is your favorite team reboot? I like this one.
My favorite team reboot. That's a good one. I would say for me, I think it's, my team, we like to go for lunch together, when we're available, when we're all in the office together. It really allows us to come together, not talk about work for a bit, and just talk about our lives outside of work. So I think you have to find what works best for you and the way you work. But for me, I think it's team lunches, team being able to be with your team, and just not talk about the daily work stuff.
Yeah. For myself, I did notice what was helpful for our team 2 weeks ago is having just a moment to say, hey, let's take a quick 20-30 minute break. Let's sit down and you want to just let all your thoughts out. Oh, these frustrations. Oh, I got this comment. Oh, someone wants to improve on this. Just letting it all air out really helped the team, one, take that all off of their shoulders, and two, connect because we're also experiencing the same things. It's easier knowing that we're not alone.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Our next question here. What are some things you do in your personal or professional life to help encourage the balance within the team? Any tips or tricks to communicate those needs with your team or fostering that trust and relationship?
Yeah, I think again it goes back to the balance topic that we talked about earlier. I think it's about making sure that you have that ability to take time off, so you're not stretched too thin. Being able to say no is we've said in multiple sessions already today. Being no is a full sentence. I think Nick said that in his sentence. Being comfortable, being given the autonomy to do that while still being able to manage all the projects that you have on the go, not being stretched too thin, not feeling like you're doing too much. I've through my entire career, I've had a learning of saying yes too much. I think Nick said the same thing. He was always saying yes. He was always, being that guy who was always on, always available. And then I think it can come back and hurt you a little bit sometimes too, right? So it's about finding that balance. It's about being able to know where your limits are mentally, physically, emotionally, and then being able to set those boundaries and make sure that everyone around you respects those boundaries and sticks to them.
Yeah, I do notice learning what your boundaries are is one thing, and then outwardly communicating them and holding that boundary tends to be a little challenging, especially when you get in those conversations. Maybe it's your manager asking you for an additional project to take on, but vocalizing them and standing up for yourself, it's the biggest reward and impact that you'll have for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important to keep those boundaries, setting them from the beginning so there's no surprises, making sure that everyone knows them, everyone's aware of them, and that that if there needs to be ebbs and flow with that within what you deem to be appropriate and allowed. I think you have to, I think in events, we know that everything is live. There's no sort of do-overs. And so to be able to have that ability to be, flexible, not where like within the constraints of your comfort level, I think is also a huge piece that not a lot of people talk about is yes, setting boundaries is super important, but knowing that if there's an emergency or something happens and you keep that information and you have that piece, then maybe you have a little bit of a give and take where you're on for a little bit more, but then you're off for a little bit more afterwards. So I think that's also a huge piece to talk about too, that not many people talk about.
Yeah. Next, we have a question from Molly. What are your expectations when working with vendors, suppliers, or agency partners?
So to me, this is like such an important conversation. I have it with a lot of people, like Rich in the chat and Carter and a couple other people can attest to this. There's a massive difference between a vendor and a partner. The biggest difference is a partner is there at 2 o'clock in the morning the night before the event when you need them. A vendor is just someone who's there to take an order and deliver a product or service. And there's a huge difference between the two. I'm a huge proponent and a huge believer in creating and building up your partners and your trusted partners over your entire career that you take with you, over using just vendors because you have to use them wherever possible, obviously. But again, the expectation is that we're all in this together. We're all in the same team. We're all there to deliver excellence for our events and our clients and our guests. And that's how the mentality needs to be across the board, whether it's the venue, it's the producer, it's the AV company, it's the catering company, the booth builder. It doesn't matter who it is. Everyone's there on the same team and everyone needs to be on the same page to deliver for all the stakeholders and attendees.
Yeah, I always say that we work at different companies, but we're all on the same team.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a question here in from Lisa. Since we often have to manage up, any tips for coaching on how to best do that?
I think it's about finding what works for your team. Some people like to be coached in different ways. Some people like being micromanaged. Some people like being, left on their own to do their thing with, less regular check-ins. So I think it's about finding what works in the constraints and in the constraints of, your org and your company and, how that works for the team. But finding the ways and talking to your team and not always just saying, well, this is how we're doing it because the rest of the company does it, but really finding out what's best and how it works best for everyone individually, because even you might have 5 people on your team or 10 people on your team, and they might all need different ways of being coached, given feedback. So really being able to find that information out from the beginning and then sticking to it and then having those ebbs and flows as needed, I think is really how you win in that category.
Yeah, definitely finding out their working style, both verbal and nonverbal communication can give you those hints. And then when you're mirroring their communications, I feel like that's when everything best lands. Things work smoother, flow easier. And I would say that for me, when managing up, what I found very successful is letting them know the context of what I'm talking about, and
Yeah.
then following up with a direct ask of what I need from you in order to continue moving forward. And maybe that's hey, I need can you lend me an ear? I just want to talk this through to make sure that it's aligned with our goals. Or saying, this contract has been in your queue for 3 days. I need you to sign it.
I think the other piece is really quickly before we go is I think on the managing upside is, it's our job to bring, C-level executive team levels, their big dreams, their big goals, their big aspirations. We have to bring them back down to life and what's realistic and what we can actually execute for the budget that we have to work with. So making sure you keep that in your back pocket is super important.
Definitely. Well, Evan, thank you so much for this session and this chat.